Hey, everybody. Hi. So, when I got the email to do this intro, I was totally stoked. And as I was online stalking Brit and Julia, or as we call it in Nairobi, conducting digital due diligence on Brit and Julia, these three hashtags kept popping up into my mind. Hashtag girl boss, hashtag girl power, hashtag we run the world. Julia is co-founder and president of Eventbrite. Eventbrite is the world's largest self-service ticketing platform. At Eventbrite, Julia's role is building, evolving, and sustaining the team and their amazing culture. And she does such an amazing job that Eventbrite has won 6 times in a row Best Places to Work in San Francisco. Julia has also been named by Fortune as most powerful woman entrepreneur in the world. And today, Julia will be speaking with Brit Morin. Brit is the founder of Brit Plus Co, a new media and commerce company that enables creativity through inspiring content, online classes, and do-it-yourself kits. Brit has also written a book, Homemakers, a domestic handbook for the digital generation. Brit has been on the Forbes Top 30 Under 30 list, and she's been named by Fortune Most Promising Entrepreneur in 2015. So like we do it in Startup Grind, let's get up on our feet and give them the applause they deserve as they come on stage.
Thanks for that drink. Did you guys not get the memo that we're having drinks right now?
We're having an early cocktail hour.
Yeah, this is happy hour. It's really happy
extra,
for this one in here. I feel like Kathleen Lee and Hoda on the Today Show, kind of.
Well, this is really just, I feel spoiled because to come here and be able to be with you guys in such a great setting and also to be together seems unfair because it's way too fun. So we'll have fun today talking about brand and how to build your visual voice through branding. But first, I would love to hear just a little bit about what inspired you to start Brit & Co. I'll tell a quick funny story and then I want to hear your perspective of it. You came over to our house with these amazing muffins. Do you remember this? And it was like not just muffins, it was just the most amazing artistic
Caramel
creation.
apple muffins.
Caramel apple muffins in this incredible like chalkboard, cool crate, and our daughter was enamored with you. And that's when you told us that you were deciding to start your own company and really build this media platform. And I'll never forget that moment because your conviction, not only in your caramel apple muffins and how good they were, and they were really good, but also just sort of the badassery around your vision of building a business was really profound for me. And it's been so fun to watch you over the last few years build what is now an amazing brand. So can you tell me your perspective on that moment?
Sure. You know, I started my career working for more traditional tech companies like Apple and Google, and it wasn't until the last role I had at Google, where I worked at YouTube, that I sort of saw the light of what's happening in the traditional media world. So all of these big, print and television companies at the time were like failing to digitize their content, and they were almost against digitizing their content. And it seemed crazy to me when I watched the YouTube generation rise at Google and all of these vloggers and bloggers literally sitting in their bedroom making millions of dollars. So I saw a big opportunity to reach millennials in particular with this new form of content and to build a media company that could span categories related to creativity, which is a side passion of mine. I also wanted to take what I knew about tech and what was happening with the maker movement and all these new technologies like 3D printing and laser cutting and even like digital sewing machines and make that relevant for this new generation of women who frankly have grown up without many of these skills because they didn't have home ec class, they didn't have a mom who stayed at home. So it's not only a passion of mine, but a big business opportunity as well. And now 4 years later, we're reaching over 70 million women a month right now, which is insane. Most of them are 18 to 35. And they're coming to us for both the content and all the inspiration, almost like the magazine version of Pinterest, but also we have a new suite of online classes and online education, which is a different form of media and editorial, I guess you could say, where people can learn everything from coding to calligraphy and cake decorating. So it's evolved to be this really robust platform, and it really started with the insight I had from working in tech.
And there's such a passionate, I feel like, community around Brit & Co. We saw one of the Brit & Co. fans backstage, and there is this sort of excitement and this true touch point, I think, that you've hit on through your own experience. And I know you were 25 when you founded the company.
And you were 25 when you founded yours as well.
I'm a little bit older than you. But yes, we were both 25 when we founded the company, which seems like a very young age at this point from my perspective. But I think that you've brought millennial women along with you, and you truly understand that cohort. And I'm wondering, from getting to the subject of branding, obviously you had to think about your brand from the get-go, but how much emphasis did you place on it? How did you decide where you'd go with your voice, and how much of it would be you and how much of it would be community? And maybe take us through that exercise.
Yeah, I mean, it's really scary. Obviously, my name is in the brand, and I am a face of the brand. It's really scary. You have to be really vulnerable to put yourself in that position. You definitely get a lot of hate for random reasons. Like, I'm not trying to be some like crazy celebrity person. I'm trying to be relatable because I am a millennial woman who's the same type of woman that we're targeting. And in today's age of social media, especially if you're making editorial content or visual content, I feel like it's much more authentic if it comes from a person and not a huge brand with some sort of revenue objective. And that's really the vibe I wanted Brit & Co. to have. I was tired of seeing all these big corporate companies marketing to people on Twitter and Facebook without having real human voice and emotion in everything that they were saying. And I really wanted to be authentic, and it actually is a great also barometer of the type of content you should be creating. So for instance, in the media industry, you guys probably know a lot of people use clickbait, things that are like not safe for work, that they're putting online in various places to drive traffic. If I were to do that, like, it would be totally inauthentic to who I am. And so Brit & Co., as such, as I like to say, is like the Taylor Swift or the Disney of media sites. Like, you search for dirty terms, we don't have them, because it's driven by real humans, and there is a face attached to it, and I don't want to put myself and my reputation in that position. So in many ways, it's a setback, but it also can propel you forward, I feel like, in one regard. But I have that same question for you with Eventbrite, because it's a different type of brand in the sense that you have two communities. So for me, I'm just focused on consumers, and you have consumers and event organizers. So how do you think about your brand for both parties? Is it different?
Well, I think that, starting Eventbrite, it was inherently obvious to me that brand would be important, because we wanted to create something that that basically stood for the opposite of everything you thought of when you heard ticketing. And I had never thought much about brand or starting a company when we started Eventbrite, but when we thought about what we wanted to connote through the name and the colors and the experience, really, Kevin and I and Renaud were really passionate about creating something that was super friction-free and easy to use. I think self-service is one of the biggest competitive differentiators we have 10 years later. We are the largest independent self-service ticketing platform. We ticketed 2.5 million events around the world last year. And that in itself is powerful as a number, of course, but really it's about the experience that our organizers, first and foremost, had when they came to Eventbrite as a solution back in 2006. And so the name Eventbrite, I thought kind of reflected the sense of simplicity and sort of, accessibility, and it wasn't, encumbered with sort of this what's been characterized in the ticketing industry as really bad technology, high customer fees, just a bad experience overall. So we had some really good material to work with to make it much better and do the opposite. But I think that as we started to evolve our voice, we realized that we needed to be very crisp about what the brand Eventbrite stood for. And it wasn't until 2008 or 9 that we actually sat down and did that work. And it started with our customers. It started with us going to our event organizers and asking them the words that they would use to reflect the Eventbrite experience, and then calling thousands of words down to a list of about 8. And it was dedicated and innovative and delightful and accessible and genuine. I shouldn't have gone down this route. And empowering. And actually, what was really interesting about that list was when I looked at the list, I thought, gosh, that describes the 30 some odd Brightlings, our employees that we had at the company at the time. And so I actually repurposed our brand tenants to be our culture tenants. And that's what we use to hire the next 100, 200, 300, 400, now 500, around 530 employees. And so we brought the brand and the culture together pretty early on, which I think was also very potent.
Consumer feedback.
Based on our organizer feedback.
Got it.
And it wasn't until, frankly, 2 years ago that we really started to understand what we meant to consumers. So we have hundreds of thousands of event organizers all over the world, and we have tens of millions of consumers who are buying tickets on a pretty frequent basis on Eventbrite. When you think about what you buy on Eventbrite, it's most likely something that is happening locally and is something that's on your calendar rather than a Taylor Swift concert. Let's just take Taylor for all she's worth right now. And so when we thought about what do we mean to consumers, it's actually a very interesting exercise that I would say we haven't even gotten to the conclusion of, because we
at 10 years old.
At 10 years old, because we actually do have these two sides of a marketplace that we need to speak to through the same brand.
Right.
So
Do you think all brand, for anyone starting a company, how long do you think it takes for a brand to be formed?
Well,
or does it ever actually
I don't think we actually
formed?
knew who we were until about 5 years in. Because, and it depends on how, you can spend a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort to try to solidify your brand, but it also takes, this sounds like sage wisdom, but it also takes time and experience and understanding, like brand really only matters when you are building trust with a group of people, I think.
Yeah.
It really comes to play when you have a decision to make and you have an opportunity to build trust with your user group or your community, or you have an opportunity to completely turn them off and do the opposite. And so I think that has to happen over a series of events and time in finding your voice. How did you feel about that? Because you are a younger company, 4 years old.
We're only 4 years old. And I go back to Andy Dunn, who founded Bonobos, said early on when I think we were like 1 or 2 years old, a great brand takes at least 7 to 10 years to build. So to think that we're only halfway there is actually really exciting to see the progress that's made. And literally every year I feel like it's more and more cohesive. But as a startup, so much is in flux all the time, and you're going to pivot in different directions as well. So I think you have to be adaptable to whatever brand comes to you, as well as the type of brand you want to be building.
Yeah, I've always been really fascinated about the idea of love brands and sort of how much they actually outperform based on their peers and on even
love brands.
Love brands.
What's a
love
love
brands are those brands. If you were to ask yourself,
The brand you love?
basically. Sorry, did you?
I mean, I could jump to the conclusion there.
So I was going to get fancy with my definition, but a brand you love. And there's an irrational loyalty and love that you have for the brand. So even if it's more expensive or harder for you to access, you would go that extra mile to be a part of that experience. And I think what's really interesting, so oftentimes people say things like Apple or Netflix or Amazon or Nike. Those are sort of the iconic.
For me, it's Disney.
For you, it's Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think it's fascinating that Disney is 100 years old. It means so many things to so many generations of people. I think that's such a successful promise of a brand, that you can remain the same, with the same mission at heart of happiness and imagination, and inspire generations of people. And even as adults, like, we still love Disney, right?
Well, yeah, and it's really interesting when you think about Walt Disney and how
obsessed he was with the user experience. There's that
And
sort
the
of
content, right?
Exactly.
And it all started with content.
Yeah.
And now it's theme parks, it's licensed goods, it's ESPN and ABC. Like,
Yeah. Have you ever heard someone talk about a Disney cruise? Their entire face lights up, and it's so
I will never
confusing
go
for
on a
me.
Disney cruise.
I have no idea.
Even though
what
I
they're
love
doing.
Disney.
Raise your hand if you've been on
Have you been on a
Disney.
Disney cruise? Anybody?
Yeah, this isn't the audience.
Yeah,
right? Wait till you have kids.
So emerging love brands are interesting, and I feel like if I were to be so bold, you are building one, right? And so that community
we're both
aspect.
trying to, I guess, right? I mean, everyone's
Definitely.
trying to build a love brand, I would
I don't
say.
know though.
You don't think people,
I'm not so sure that everybody sets
Yeah.
out with that intention.
well, especially in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
I actually do think in Silicon Valley, people don't think about brand at all. Like 80% of startups probably don't think about brand at all for the first year or two, and then realize it's really important. And you actually see even brands like Facebook in the early days were so like focused on the engineering and scaling of the brand, which is a smart decision. But today, you know, what does Facebook mean to people? And I know a lot of people that have worked in marketing at Facebook who really tried to extract that out. And it's a 10-year-old, 12-year-old brand now that's still trying to figure it out. So it was something that wasn't inherently rooted in the brand to start. And I do think in Silicon Valley, you see a lot of, you know, SaaS companies and social networks and things that are starting but haven't really focused innately on what their brand stands for, what their culture is, what their values are. And it's different when you go to LA and New York. It's totally different in other places.
They start with the brand.
Right, the brand leads everything.
That's interesting. I have a self-serving question for you.
Okay.
The events are really core to your brand, and getting people together offline is something that you've adopted from almost the get-go. Can you take me through your thinking on that and why you think it's important? I'm assuming you think it's important, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. To gather people offline in a sort of a live experiences format.
Yeah, well, a couple things. First, the promise of Brit & Co. is that, you know, not only are we leveraging technology to connect people online and teach them and inspire them how to be more creative, but creativity inherently is something you do with your hands for the most part, even if you're at a screen. And it's something that is social as well. So from the get-go, I always knew that we should do something as an offline event or series of events. We started a festival/conference called Remake 3 years ago, and it's doubled attendance every year. Last year we had over 10,000 people come. And what's fascinating about it is it's a place where anyone from the public can come and literally learn how to make things, from robots to cupcakes to calligraphy, greeting cards. But also makers and designers can show people how they make their own goods and sell them to people. And so it's this interesting intersection of creativity in the analog world. We've also done a lot of experiential retail pop-up stores. So not necessarily a shop where you just come in and buy things, but a shop where you come in and make things and you take classes and you can buy things. I like to think of it as like the yoga studio version of DIY. And that's been extremely successful as well. And I think what you're seeing is that millennials, especially today, can get anything they want online through Amazon and any other e-commerce site, but what they can't get is that experience. And so they actually prefer experiences now more than ever. Are you finding that is true as well? What are some of your most popular events, actually?
Well, our most popular events are in food and drink and the hybrid festivals. So we're finding this, and also something that's truly amazing. It's called e-gaming, which is tens of thousands of people going to an arena to watch two gamers compete against each other.
We do that every Friday.
Yeah, every Friday.
With our wine.
Just kidding. And so I guess if I were to classify the sort of categories that we're seeing a lot of millennial interaction in, it's really that opportunity to get together with other people who are passionate about something that's lifestyle related. And so that, and you know, we've done research, and again,
I'll call it out, it's very self-serving, but we've done research on millennials because they can be easily dubbed the experiences generation, where they do want to have that experience. They want to have a unique experience that they can then share on social media, which actually does a beautiful thing. It's this flywheel of growth. It drives other people to want to have that experience as well through things like FOMO. And so it just kind of feeds on itself. And like in our research, 3 out of 4 millennials would rather spend money on experiences than physical goods, which is a very big shift in consumerism these days. Funny enough, my mom wanted me to do research on the boomer generation because she felt like there could be some analogies. So we did. We did some research on boomers, and baby boomers are actually driving a lot of experience spending as well through events and whatnot.
So do you think for entrepreneurs and new startups, should they have an events budget? Should they be hosting events?
I mean, obviously from where I sit, I can see the value of it. I think it's hard when you have a shoestring budget and a few people and you're wondering how you're gonna pull something off like Remake.
We had 12 people on our staff the first year and had, I think that year we had 3,000 to 4,000 attendees with 12 people.
Yeah.
So it's
How
crazy.
did you do it?
You have to outsource. I mean, we luckily didn't charge for ticket sales. Instead, we found advertising sponsors, and with those funds, it wasn't a profitable event the first year. We hired outsourced contractors, event staff to help us with a model that this could become a profitable event for us in the future, which it now has, thank God.
That's quick though.
Yeah, for 3 years?
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
What is the general time?
It's about 6 to 7 for a festival.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
so yay.
Thanks.
But at any rate, we find that those interactions that a consumer has with your brand offline in real life, or IRL, we love our acronyms, is potent. It is something that influences them and creates those net promoters, if you will, of your brand. And so if you can find a way to create those moments, even if it feels like it doesn't scale, because believe me, when we started Eventbrite, and even today, we're all about scale. We want to get as far as we can with as little resources as possible. But what we're learning is to almost eat our own dog food and create these live experiences branded by Eventbrite to really engage our core community, which are event organizers, like the folks that put on Startup Grind. So it can be a really incredible experience to build your brand.
Totally. I think we're out of time.
I know. Can you give us just a snapshot into what's next for Brit & Co? Or
Well, there will be
Share secrets.
another employee soon. Let's see, what's next for Brit & Co? We are so excited about this new transformation of digital media, wherein we're actually publishing content on third-party platforms. Facebook now with instant articles, Snapchat Discover, Pinterest has a variety of things that we're publishing too. So it's a new wave of transformation in the media industry in general online, and it's a little bit risky because we're not necessarily focused on driving people to our site or our app all the time. We want them to experience Brit & Co wherever they are on the web, and that includes video as well. So we're really focused on creating original video content, and probably similar to what you've seen with Vice and others, creating shows really quickly and nimbly, using a lot of data to inform the types of content they're creating, and building up audiences for them online, and maybe then taking it to TV, who knows? But the audiences are coming from television to digital more than ever before, so we're really focused on just meeting them wherever they're at.
Well, that's exciting. Thanks for giving us an update. And thank you guys for letting us sit up here and hang out.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.